During this homecoming, it is a great honor to give our next award to a group of trailblazers to whom we all owe a debt of gratitude. A group of Minnesotans who dared to flesh out an innovative concept that some termed a chartered public school. The Alliance has already honored two of those innovators, Ted Coldery and Ember Reichgott-Young, who were inducted into the Charter Schools Hall of Fame in 2007 and 2009, respectively. This year, we recognize 3 additional Minnesotans for the impact their inspiration and leadership have had on the national charter school movement. They are Jon Schroeder, one of the movement's beacons during our early years. He drafted the original legislation for federal support of public charter schools that led to the creation of the Federal Charter Schools Program, which has been appropriated at more than $3 billion since its inception. He served as a co-founder and director of the Alliance's predecessor, the Charter School Friends National Network, which guided the country's first steps toward national coordination of this diverse movement. Finally, Jon was a founding member of the Alliance's governing board. The City Academy in St. Paul, the nation's very first public charter school with a strong track record of turning high school dropouts into college graduates. And last but not least, we honor Eric Mahmoud, founding director of Harvest Prep Academy and several other high-performing charter schools here in the Twin Cities. Eric's schools have a track record of success spanning nearly 2 decades. And just recently, the Minneapolis Board of Education approved the replication of Harvest Prep at 4 additional locations in the city over the next 10 years. Each of our Minnesota awardees is deserving of this recognition on their own merits. And when their individual paths are integrated by time and circumstance, one understands how the Minnesota story gave birth to a movement. Let's watch their video.
Well, come on, guys. I'm going to show you the former home of City Academy, the first home, which was this Market Recreation Center.
On May 22nd, 1991, the chartered school bill finally passed the Minnesota legislature. It was not your normal legislative journey, believe me. And wouldn't you know that City Academy would be the first charter school in the nation, opened September 7th, 1992.
I remember my first day at City Academy. I walked in and it was the first time anyone had ever asked me what I would like to do after high school.
The requirement that teachers be in charge, that they make up the majority of the board, seemed the height of responsibility and professionalism, so that was a real drawing card for us.
Here was the main room, one of the classrooms, and the huge kitchen.
City Academy is really a pioneer. It is the template for chartering in this country. And so Milo and her team had to go out and find space. That was something the city was willing to help with. Well, they also need a little extra funding, and so they engaged their students to go out, and they got some funding from a utility in the neighborhood.
First thing we were looking for was that students were in charge of choosing, where they wanted to go to school and had a say in how that would look, and that teachers were there because they chose to be there, not because they were assigned to be there. The charter legislation was the absolute right match for us. Our starting students, the founding students, were out of the system. There were very few options for our beginning students.
City Academy was very important and very vital to my life and the person I am today.
And I don't really think of us as first but part of an experience that many people in this state shared.
So when Minnesota started to get serious about passing a charter law, my ears perked up, and Senator Dernberger, my boss, the challenge he gave me was come up with some legislation creating an appropriate role for the federal government, and basically a state initiative. And let's use that to educate people and try to get more states to pass charter school laws. The timing was good to frame the issue in the way that we did, as a new, safe middle ground for Republicans and Democrats to come together in support of state-based education reform.
Jon Schroeder developed a plan where the federal government, the Congress, could provide dollars to schools and to states for grants for startup funding for chartered schools. So in other words, they were now an incentive for the states to pass innovative new laws around chartering.
There was a very interesting and very significant bipartisan team that got assembled here, and Senator Durenberger and Senator Kennedy, who was the chair of the Senate committee. That was an absolutely critical moment in the history of charter schools. A Republican and a Democrat, Durenberger and Kennedy working together and with the Clinton administration in ways that we don't see now. We also set this up in a way that the grants went to the state rather than to schools or to school districts.
The legislation passed finally in 1994 when charter schools were able to get startup funding, and many, many millions of dollars have been given throughout the years for that program. And so Jon then became a voice for chartering in many states as they were trying to pass their laws. And in fact, I think he said that he probably had a part in over 20 states in the passage of their chartering laws.
Now, we called our very first bill the Public School Redefinition Act, because that's what we were doing. We were redefining public education.
So this is really the brainchild of my wife, Dr. Eric Mahmoud. She wanted to start a school. So we incubated our first program in our home with about 10 children. And after about a year, parents just demanded that we expanded our program. So we found an old building, renovated it into a school. As our children were beginning to graduate from our preschool program, we found that they weren't being challenged academically, and that's when we decided to start our elementary school, which was called Harvest Preparatory School. We now have about 1,000 children that we serve in 5 programs. They share the same mission, and that mission is to instruct, empower, enable, and guide African American children to achieve superior academic, social, and moral development.
Good. Give yourselves a hand. Good job. Say thank you, Mr. Mahmoud.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmoud.
Scholars, outstanding. Yep. You almost had me crying over here.
So when Eric Mahmoud chartered his first school in 1998, it was everything we had hoped it would be. He was able to build high-quality education right into the neighborhood of North Minneapolis, to the point where he could have multiple schools.
About 95% of our students are graduating from high school, and about 80% of them are going on to college. So it's pretty phenomenal in comparison to what you find in the typical school around this neighborhood.
I want to thank those scholars that are looking forward. Thank you. Excellent job.
The charter school law basically gave us an opportunity to experiment with ideas, innovate, and really implement some things that we find were not in the typical school district.
I reduced my fraction and I divided both of them by 5. And then
they admire him. I think they want to emulate him in many ways because of his ability to be focused, to be sincere, and to be clear about what his goals are for them.
In many ways, Eric Mahmoud is the example of all chartering is meant to be: high quality and innovative, both in one. And he's just been a tremendous leader in our community, and I cannot think of a better candidate for the National Charter Schools Hall of Fame.
Please join me in congratulating Jon Schroeder. City Academy, represented by Tom Gonzalez and Shi Zhang. And finally, Eric Mahmoud.
Good morning. First of all, I am truly honored to be inducted into the National Charter School Hall of Fame. I am humbled to share this stage with educational pioneers, representatives from City Academy, Tom and Shi, and Jon Schroeder, who is the founder and director of Charter Friends National Network. These pioneers have blazed a trail for children around this country. I'm amazed about the fact that ideas can change the world. We are here because we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of an idea. In 1991, charter schools at best was a great idea. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Joe Nathan and Ted Coldry for giving birth to this great idea. I also want to thank Ember Rice Scott Young, who is the lawmaker that wrote legislation to protect this great idea. As with any great idea, we know that we need people bold enough, courageous enough, and relentless enough that will take an idea and make it a reality. So in 1992, Milo Cutter stepped up and created a movement with just about 50 children in her school. That movement now impacts over 2 million children around the country. Now, some of you who are in business, who have run a school, understand the saying, no money, no mission. As passionate as we are about our mission and the children we serve, we know that we need resources. Jon Schroeder stepped up and wrote legislation to direct billions of dollars to charter schools around the country, and we thank you, Jon. Lastly, I want to thank two women in my life. First of all, my mother, Annie McLaughlin, who gave me those important values of love and commitment, which is the foundation on which I stand. I also want to thank my wife, Dr. Ella Mahmoud, who is truly the wind beneath my wings. It was Ella who started 25 years ago, before there was even a charter school, starting in our home to serve children in the North Minneapolis area. I also want to recognize my amazing staff at Harvest Prep and Best Academy under the leadership of Dr. Callie Laluba. It is because of their brilliance and their hard work is the reason why I'm able to accept this award. Lastly, I want to thank the bold leadership of Minneapolis schools under the leadership of Dr. Bernadette Johnson, who basically said, irrespective of whether a district school or a charter school, she wants great schools in Minneapolis. To my charter school leaders, teachers, and supporters around the country, I just want to leave you with the words of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, when she was asked about her extraordinary work, she said that I am but a little pencil in the hand of a writing God who is writing a love letter to the world. To my charter school colleagues, I want to encourage you to continue this great work, because literally through your work, you are writing a love letter to our children all over this country. Thank you very much.
So please join me in congratulating again our 2012 Hall of Fame awardees. And thank you all for being here with us to celebrate this wonderful event. We hope you're excited about the day ahead. The information you'll be exposed to today represents some of the most exciting practices in leadership instruction, governance, and operations in charter schools. Also, please take the time to visit our exhibit floor throughout the conference so that you can get exposed to the different services and offerings that our great exhibitors have provided us. Many of our exhibitors are offering prizes to be found in our raffle book, a coupon book that's in your bags. And the drawing will be tomorrow at 1:45 p.m. at the Alliance booth. So I hope you'll join us at the booth to see who the winner is. And please enjoy the conference.